it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel. This story ain't over. So today I thought I would do a little video about the books that I'm excited for, books that are coming out later this year that I just cannot wait for. Some of these I already have arcs for, but others I am still waiting, hopefully, to get my hands on early copies, and others I'm just waiting patiently until release to get my hands on them and read them because I am dying to have them. But a bunch of you also requested this video, so I thought I would do it for you today. So I have a whole list of books on my laptop here, and I'm gonna go through each of them. So let's just get right in. So I'll be honest, I don't know a ton about each of these books because they're anticipated releases. I kind of just know the concept. I've seen most of the covers for these and they seem really awesome and interesting, or they're like sequels of books that I've read previously. So I'm just excited, but I don't necessarily know a ton about them. So the descriptions of these books won't be like ridiculously long. I will also add the caveat that I already did this video in December or beginning of January for some of my anticipated releases for 2020. So if I didn't mention one in this video, it's probably because I mentioned it in that video before, so I will link it somewhere above or down below so you can go check that out. Alright, so the first book that I'm excited about is Hunted by the Sky by Tanez Bethena. So she wrote a book called The Beauty of the Moment. I think I have it, but I haven't read it. But that one was actually a contemporary, and this one is actually a fantasy set in a world inspired by medieval India, which I thought was super cool, and like, which is what drew me to this book. And also this gorgeous cover, because like, come on. But the little description on Goodreads says, exploring identity, class struggles, and high stakes romance, Hunted by the Sky is a gripping adventure set in a world inspired by medieval India. So yeah, excited about this one, and I've heard some good things about this author as well. All right, the next book that I'm excited for is one I actually have an arc for, and that is Star Daughter by Shweta Thakrar. So this is a fantasy inspired by Hindu mythology, and it follows our main character who is like a half star. She is like the daughter of a star and a mortal, which is like mind-blowing and beyond my brain. But it kind of reminds me of Stardust by Neil Gaiman, if you've ever read or watched the movie. Similar to that, it's also comped in like the description of the book. But basically the main character is Sheetal, so she's the daughter of a star and a mortal. So her mortal father falls ill after he's hit by like an errant flame of starfire or something, and she needs to save his life and heal him. So she needs the help of a full star, not a half star like herself. And so someone like her mother who returned to the sky years ago, so she ends up going to like a celestial court in the sky, I believe that's what it seems like. Celestial court of shining wonders and dark shadows, where she must act as her family's champion in a competition to decide the next ruling house of the heavens, or risk never returning to Earth at all. This seems super interesting. I also just love this cover. It's so gorgeous and I'm just so excited about it. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how this one goes. I will definitely try and read it soon so I can let you guys know how it is before it releases. But yeah, very excited about this. All right, the next book that I am super excited for is a sequel to a book that I read last year and absolutely loved, and that's The Archer at Dawn, and it's by Swati Tirthala. She is the author of The Tiger at Midnight, and I read this last year and really loved it. I loved it way more than I was expecting to, and so I'm just really excited to see how things are gonna go in the second book. Basically, this is like a cat and mouse game between an assassin and like a soldier, and it's in this fantasy world inspired by ancient India, and it involves some mythology as well and some magic, and it was just honestly a wonderful time, and I just love the dynamic between the two main characters. So I'm really excited to see where it's gonna go in the second book, and there's also a lot of like things left unsolved in the first book that I want to see come to fruition in the second book, so we'll see how that goes. All right, the next book that I'm super excited about is one that I didn't know was actually happening until very recently, and that is Dear Justice by Nick Stone. So this is a sequel to Dear Martin by Nick Stone. She wrote that like quite a few years ago, and it was amazing. I read it a couple years ago and just absolutely fell in love with it. It was released around the time of The Hate You Give, and also dealt with police brutality and shootings and that kind of thing. So the main character in Dear Martin was named Justice, and so this book follows the friend of Justice who pleads not guilty for shooting a police officer and is awaiting trial. And while he's awaiting trial, he ends up in like the prison system, and he ends up writing letters to Justice explaining his experience and kind of putting out a plea to the world. I am super interested to see how this book is going to go, and it's going to cover the American prison system, which is just going to be a wild ride. So I'm just really excited to read this book, and I think it's going to be just as amazing as Dear Martin was. All right, the next book that I'm super excited about is Come On In. It's an anthology of stories written by authors who are immigrants, and it's about stories of immigration, which I thought was super cool and interesting, and I've never seen an anthology like that before. And it includes stories from Samira Ahmed, Zoraida Cordova, Maureen Gu, Sona Charipotra, and those are just a few that I know from like other books that they've written, but there's a bunch of other authors included in this collection as well. So I'm just excited about it in general, and yeah, I just think it's gonna be really cool and fun and a great addition to any kind of library. So yeah. All right, the next book that I'm super excited for is Vicious Spirits by Kat Cho, and this is the sequel slash companion, I think, to Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. So I have this and I have not read it yet, but I've heard mixed things about this. I know a lot of people liked it and I know a lot of people who didn't like it, so I'm interested to see what I feel about it, but I do really want to read it. I've heard it's like a K-drama. It involves like Korean mythology, so I'm just excited about that. But I saw the cover of this book, Vicious Spirits, and just fell in love because it seems like something I'm gonna love. So it is a companion, I just checked. It does pick up after the events of Wicked Fox, so I can't really say anything more about this book other than I love the cover and I'm really excited to see if it'll be good. But yeah, I don't want to spoil myself for Wicked Fox, so I can't really tell you more about this. But just know that it's on my radar, and I'm definitely gonna read this now so I can read this. All right, the next book that I'm excited for is one that I knew nothing about, and I just saw the cover on Twitter and I was like, I need this now. And that is How We Fall Apart by Katie Zhao. So all I know about this is that it is One of Us is Lying meets Crazy Rich Asians. So it's like an Asian One of Us is Lying, which is like a mystery thriller book by, I think, Karen McManus, and it's been super popular, but I like never had the inclination to read it. I don't really read a lot of thrillers, but I was like, the second I found out that this one was like an Asian version of it, I was like, yes, I want this. And I love the cover as well, just because like seeing the Asian faces on the cover is just really awesome, and seeing that representation, so it made me really happy. So I am very excited for this and I will probably pick it up. All right, the next book that I'm really excited for is Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin. So that is the sequel to Serpent and Dove by this author, and this is a fantasy series that follows a witch and a witch hunter and like their hate to love romance, and I loved this. I think I kind of like binge read it over a couple days and really enjoyed it. It was like fun and fast paced. I know some people didn't like it, but I personally enjoyed it. It was like exactly what I was looking for at the time. It was like a fun fantasy romance. So yeah, I'm excited to see where the second book goes, and I think it was like a fun and interesting dynamic between the two main characters. So we'll see if the second book lives on. I also just really liked the magic that was involved in this book. There are different types of witches in this book, which I thought was super interesting. So I hope the author will expand more on the like second type of witch that we kind of get in this book. Not the main character type of witch, but like one of the side characters type of witch. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this one goes. All right, the next book that I'm super excited for is also another sequel, and it is Ironheart by Nina Varela, and that is the sequel to Crier's War by Nina Varela. So I read this also last year. It took me a while to finish it because I did feel like it dragged a bit, and I did have pretty mixed feelings about this book, and if you watch my wrap up for when I read this, you'll know why. But mainly I didn't love both of the main characters that are narrating in this book. I mostly liked the character named Crier in this book, and I was really invested in her journey throughout the book, but not really the other characters. So I'm excited for Ironheart regardless, because I really want to know what happens to Crier and what happens in this world, and see where the author's planning to take this series. I just love the question of like humanity and all of that within the series. It basically is set in this world where humans have created these things called automata, and then they have kind of taken over the world or this country and become the ruling class and kind of start killing off a bunch of humans and make them a kind of subclass. So one of the main characters is a human trying to fight against this new automata regime of like these artificial humans, and Crier is one of these artificial humans. She is basically like a princess or like the daughter of a general or something of this ruling class of automata, and she is having questions about her automatoness, of her humanity, and I just love that kind of questioning. So was really interested by that. So I'm hoping the author will explore more of that in the second book as well. All right, the next book that I'm super excited for has a gorgeous cover, and it also is by an author I really like, and that is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. So Tiffany D. Jackson is the author of Let Me Hear a Rhyme, which is a book I read last year and really loved. It had like really strong characters and a interesting story. And so this one is kind of like a fame slash like thriller story. So basically it follows her main character, Enchanted Jones, who is this like aspiring artist. She wants to be a singer, and she gets kind of discovered by this like huge R&B star named Corey Fields. And so she's kind of like groomed by Corey, but the book actually begins after Corey is murdered, or she's dead. She's found dead, and Enchanted wakes up with blood on her hands, and she doesn't know what happened. She's just trying to kind of uncover what really happened and what happened to Corey. And all signs kind of point to Enchanted as the killer, but there might be some other story behind this. And I think there's like alternating timelines, like you get to see Enchanted kind of getting groomed by Corey, and this kind of like dark world that Corey has been living in despite her fame. So I'm just really interested by this book, and I think it's gonna be super cool. And I also just love this cover. It just makes me so freaking happy. So yeah, I'm just really excited for this book in general. All right, the next book that I'm really excited for is Smash It by Francina Simone. So this is the book by popular booktuber Francina Simone. She's super great and I love her videos. And so I really wanted to read her book as soon as I found out about it. And I also just really love this cover as well. Basically, this follows our main character, Olivia, or Liv, and she is a junior in high school, and she's often let what other people think of her kind of affect her behavior. And so she decides to just like fuck it. She's just gonna do whatever she wants. She's going to make a fuck it list and do all the things on that list. It's like a bucket list, but for like not caring about what people think. And this book also features a production of Othello going on at Liv's school, and so there's also an element of race involved with that as well. So I'm just really interested to see how this goes, and I think it's going to be awesome because Francina is awesome and she has great writing videos and also book videos, and I have complete faith that it's going to be great. All right, the next book that I'm excited for is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. So this is Elizabeth Acevedo's new book that is also written in verse, like her first book was, The Poet X. So I'm super excited about that element of this book, but it follows two young girls who share the same father, and they both find out that their father has perished in a plane crash, and so they're kind of going through that grief, but also learning of each other as well because they didn't know of each other before that. And it's just a story of this family kind of unfolding. I'm really interested to see how this goes, and I think it's gonna be super powerful, just like Elizabeth Acevedo's first book was. So I'm just really excited. All right, the next book that I'm really excited for is I'll Be the One by Lila Lee. So this follows a South Korean main protagonist, and she's trying to become a K-pop star. She's very talented, but she also happens to be fat and bisexual, and she thinks that like the industry is never gonna let her, you know, become who she wants to be. And so she is determined to prove everyone wrong, and you know, it has like a really strong message of like body positivity and being unapologetically you. So I'm just really excited for it, and I think it's gonna be really awesome. I have the arc, so I'm hoping to read it very soon. I will let you guys know my thoughts, but yeah, this is like everything I wanted in a book, like a diverse K-pop story. Like, all right, the next book that I'm super excited about is Darius the Great Deserves Better by Adib Khorram, and this is the sequel to Darius the Great Is Not Okay. I read this book, I think, early last year, and I really loved it. It's such a sweet story, coming of age story about a young man who visits his family in Iran and kind of reconnects with his heritage, but is also dealing with his depression and his fraught relationship with his father. And there's also like a really sweet friendship that goes on in this book as well. So in the second book, it seems like the main character has actually fully embraced his sexuality, which I was so happy about because it's kind of hinted at in this first book, but he hasn't really explored it. And so you find out in the second book that he has a boyfriend. Things are going really great for him. He has an internship, but then things start to kind of fall apart. He realizes he might be starting to have feelings for someone else. Although his relationship with his dad was going well, new things come up. And while things start out perfect at the beginning of the book, it seems like Darius has a little bit more growing to go. But yeah, I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be equally as sweet as this first book was, and I just love the cover for this as well. Like, just so much. It's such a cute cover. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be great. All right, and the last book that I'm super excited for is actually one that I forgot to mention in the last anticipated releases video that I did, but I did mention it in the description of that video. But that book is A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green, which is the sequel to An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This book came out, I think, in 2018, and I absolutely loved it so very much. Like, it was one of my favorite books of the year, and I actually really want to reread it very soon before the next book comes out. There is a bit of a cliffhanger, but like, it could still work as a standalone. So I'm just really interested to see where things are going to go in the second one and the repercussions of the first one. And I also believe it's going to be a lot more sci-fi-y in the second book, because this was pitched as a sci-fi, but it deals a lot more with like fame and the real world than you'd expect. And I think that was the primary genre of it. And then there's a lot of sci-fi elements that kind of go along with it. But basically, this book follows our main character, April May, who is a YouTuber kind of person. And one day, these like giant structures called Carls, or which she names Carls, they're like giant statues, appear all over the world. And she takes a video with one of the first ones that lands on Earth, that appears on Earth, and the video goes viral, and everyone starts to look to her as an authority on these structures called Carls. As time goes by, the world kind of gets obsessed with these Carls and wants to know more about them, because they seem to be alien structures who come from somewhere else and no one knows anything about them. This book is kind of like The Arrival, the movie, but like less serious, like way less serious. There's no direct contact with aliens. They're just kind of trying to solve this mystery of the Carls, and mysterious and weird things happen, and things get kind of crazy and dangerous, and April May does some really questionable things, and I love this book so very much. And it deals with like fame in a really interesting way as well. So yeah, I think the second book is going to be equally amazing, and I have ultimate faith in hankering. But those are all the books that I want to talk about today. I had a lot of fun talking about all these books I'm very excited for. There's going to be a lot of great reading material for the rest of the year despite everything that's going on. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please leave me a comment down below of what books you guys are excited for the rest of 2020. I would love to hear all of your thoughts, but I will see you in my next video. So until then, please remember that the story ain't over. Bye.